Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dads, listening to Tomcats, talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. All right, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Penny Bloom Podcast. 'Tis I, Colton Robertson, and you're back for the Bad Batch, bitches. We are your favorite, most defective group of Bad Batch podcasters. Well, more deviant than defective. We're back with Tillman motherfucking McClooney. What's up, homie?
Glad to finally bring diversity back to this group and be back here. I'm excited, happy to be here. Diversity, including Miles, it's always great.
Yeah, it's always good. It's always good. But I'm excited to hear your thoughts about this series so far, because we haven't gotten to hear from you since the Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I'm looking forward to it. We've also got Miles motherfucking Buttress. What's up, homie?
I'm happy to be back, man. Glad to.
I'm happy to have you.
We've been talking about. We've been doing these podcasts for a while, dude. This is becoming a staple.
Miles is on a roll. He's been here since some point in the Mandalorian, and I don't think he's missed since. I think Miles has rode this thing out. Joseph was also the same up until this episode,
Fucking slacker.
Fucking slacker. But we're also joined by KBZ Kyler Barnett. What's up, homie?
Not much. Ready to talk about it.
Let's talk about it. First up, I want to get Tillman's thoughts on this series as a whole so far. We're 3 episodes in. We haven't got to hear from you yet. Let me hear how you felt about it.
Just 2 words that you guys have covered in your past podcast for this show. Dave Filoni. Genius. Brilliant. I mean, this show has been fantastic, and you guys brought up a good point. Okay, the last episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian was epic, and yes, that one is not better than the premiere, but yes, to me, the premiere of this show outdid every episode of season 2 that I saw, besides that last final episode, because just taking, a group of clones and turning it into, an interesting mindscaping story that we're seeing. And it's just like, he's including, the Order 66, right after, this is the gray area that we've all been wondering, this is the more that the shows and the more information they give us about what happened between Luke Skywalker and A New Hope and the end of episode 3, the more you give that to us, the exciting it is to just understand, okay, what's happening? How this unfold? How do they make these transitions? And, we're seeing a power struggle here between, the clones and then the Empire talking about, we don't need clones and whatnot. And I'm excited to see where this goes, because also just this group of clones are not a regular group of clones, their genetics are different. And then I'm also, we're seeing the struggle within the group, but also within, how that group pertains to how is it causing a problem for the Empire and for other people. And so, taking such a small factor and making it something big and as interesting as this, I'm loving this show. I'm looking forward to it every week. I'm excited.
See, that was the thing that concerned me most going into this, was the fact that it was such a small part of the galaxy, this small clone force. I didn't anticipate this clone force being the basis of these very, very important storylines. We get to learn more about the Kaminoans. Obviously, previously we've only known them as the cloners from episode 2. That's kind of all we've gotten of them before. We haven't really got to see their allegiances. They've always been kind of fishy, though. It's like they've always known something that everyone didn't. There were people in Kamino who knew about Order 66 and the inhibitor chip before it happened. So it's like, how great of a group can they be? And we kind of get glimpses in this episode that they're more out for their self-interests more than anything. And I think that's, I think that was very cool to see. Miles, let me hear how you felt about the episode.
So one, I loved the fact that, as you were saying about the Kaminoans, they clearly just have contingency after contingency to try and be sure that they stay afloat, regardless of what happens with the Republic and the Empire. I think they have some they see the writing on the wall. I think I think we're about to see some shit go down. Two, love the fact that, you know, with this being an animated show, there was, you know, I think some people were worried about, you know, this connecting to the overarching universe, and we see even it's a tiny little tidbit, but it's just another connection to Rogue One, where in Rogue One she mentions what's it fucking called, like War Mantle?
Project War Mantle, yeah.
Project War Mantle is one of the things that she notices whenever they're like looking for the Death Star plans, and we hear Project, you know, just a quick one-liner from Rogue One, and that's now a storyline for this TV show. Love that.
Well, I want to jump in on that real quick about what Project War Mantle possibly could be. Do you have any ideas there?
Oh yeah, I think it's their process of replacing the clones. It's creating an army that's not clones, and kind of what they're doing in this episode, where they are having Crosshair lead a group of, you know, top recruits, and then they're going to be the ones that eventually lead other top recruits until they have the foundations to then create an army from it. The final point that I wanted to get out real quick if we talk about that some more is, as my name said, Crosshair's a fucking menace. Straight menace to society.
God damn. Tillman texted me after we watched this episode, and he goes, you know, this show is not for kids. Like that.
No.
This is far from a children's cartoon.
Stop saying this is a kid's show. It's Star Wars Clone. No, it's just too kiddie for me. Shut up.
You know, I think that transition really, because like the original Clone Wars, the first couple seasons were very much like, oh, this is a kids TV show. And then as the show like went further and further along, it became a little more adult, but it still wasn't adult. And then we saw once, cause Filoni was in charge of season 7, right?
Well, he was in charge of he started getting more and more at the helm of things like season 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, but 7, he was like 7. I know for sure. Like he was.
That was him. Yeah.
He was all season 7, and that's where I think we saw this. What is just an animated TV show for Clone Wars season 7 turn into more of an adult animation, like an adult oriented animated TV show, and we're just seeing it continued here, where this is not for kids. This is, we're seeing them slaughter civilians, which is what, you know, is not the most child friendly.
I'm going to tell you, if this is a live action series, not only is that a little more haunting, but also that Ordo moon dragon, some of those shots, if they were in live action, would have actually been more horrifying than anything we've seen in Star Wars. Like, bro, like that shit where Hunter like looked up and the shit's claws like wrapped around the rock.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly when it was, but like if in live action, if we got like the effect of like a real claw like that would have been truly horrifying. Like that, like, and the fact that they can so effectively do that horror thriller thing in animation is fantastic.
Thinking about that, I want a Star Wars horror movie. There's so much like weird, creepy shit in the Star Wars universe. It's so cool to see some shit like that.
I thought they said that one of the shows was it wasn't necessarily like horror, but they said they were gonna be a little bit darker. I can't remember.
I think that was. This is the horror thriller show they were talking about.
Oh, okay.
This and probably Dark Acolyte. The Acolyte.
That's the one I was thinking of. That's the one I was thinking.
Acolyte.
Of.
What the fuck?
That's gonna follow a Sith apprentice, and it's being created by the developer of like Russian Doll and a few other things. So
mystery thriller. Ooh, it's Final Days of the High Republic. Okay, I'm for that.
Yeah, exactly.
To kind of pick up on what Colton said about if this were live action, that's exactly what I thought when we got to the battle scenes on, I forget what the planet's called. Can someone bail me out here? I'm coming unprepared.
Onderon?
Yes. the scenes on that planet, those battle scenes and the animation and just how that fight and battle all took place and just the movement of it was fantastic. I was like,
beautiful.
I was shocked at that. I guess, I don't know. I felt like the animation's been really good. It hasn't been bad or distracting. It hasn't been a detractor from the show at all up to this point. But I felt like this episode, there was just so much good action that this animation elevated so much more that it was like, wow, it looked really great. Yeah.
There was that shot of Crosshair's mask, and it was like just his face. And like it was so perfectly symmetrical, and it just looked so real. Like it looked like it was like we were looking at a live action clone mask, and I was like,
what I loved about this was like the way this was animated, it feels like how this would look and feel in live action. The way the camera work would be in live action, I felt like the animation absolutely did that exact thing perfectly.
Yeah, like they're trying.
Yeah, like they were trying to mimic that. Yeah, and I loved it. I thought the episode was fantastic. I didn't really know, I guess, what we were like. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't heard or read anything about it until I watched it today, actually. And man, it was like I was
a good
really,
episode.
yeah, I was really shocked at how like much substance there was from beginning to end, and how like. I guess,
and let me tell you,
I was like,
that wasn't like the stuff about Tarkin and their storyline on Kamino was the most compelling shit of this episode.
Which is funny
like,
because
that was the shit right there.
Well, I feel like there's sometimes in shows where like, you know, you've got these two different sides that like two different stories that are taking place in the same episode. Yeah, and like, you know, you always feel like when the A story's on, you're real into it, and then the B one comes back, and you're like, I'm with it, but I'm not.
Let's hurry this shit up and get back to story.
I wanted all of that.
No, today it was like I couldn't get enough of either one. It was like when the other one would go, I'd be like, oh dang, and then I'd get to it, and I'd be like, oh.
And I love the title of this episode, Replacements, because it is another theme through the A and B storyline. You got the Bad Batch on the search for a replacement to their capacitor. You know, that's the whole storyline, is they're after that replacement. And then we've got the storyline about the clones getting their replacements. The elite squad, the eventual replacement of the entire army. And I think that's I like when a title does that. You know, it really encompasses both storylines in one word. It's just kind of like replacements. And I liked that.
And there was one line this episode too that really, really stuck with me. Rampart. It was from Rampart to Tarkin. It was right when they first walked up to each other, and they were talking about. I think this idea has promise or something. And then, what did he say? I can't remember. Anybody. It was super powerful. Like the line he used specifically. It was about. Oh man!
Let's see. I'm looking through my notes.
Sorry, I'm trying to find it.
I got you.
Talking about like building up the next empire is like of them. I don't the way he worded it.
New empire.
Yeah, and all just the way he spoke about it was just like really. I guess it's cool to see it talked about like this when it's not that much of a sure thing or like big thing yet. You know, like them. Yeah,
that's what I like about Rampart. He feels like General Hux from the sequel trilogy. Arguably, could have been one of the best characters.
I would agree.
Further, like that speech he gives in The Force Awakens. Holy fuck!
That was really
fantastic. Yeah. But that's the vibes I'm getting off Rampart. You know, that's kind of the position he'll take. But how would you guys like to dive into the scene by scene breakdown? I've got my notes here. We can dive
after it. Let's get after it.
There, should get it.
So we got the Bad Batch bitches, number 3, replacements. We open on the crew in hyperspace where Hunter is dealing the team their food rations, and they're running low. And Wrecker's quite disappointed about this, but Omega's here to offer hers to him. And Wrecker's like, "Fuck yeah, thanks." Hunter has to like push him aside and be like, "Dude, Omega doesn't even have a place to fucking sleep. You want to take her food too?"
Listen, you asshole.
Yeah, exactly. Wrecker tells her he was like, you know, you can keep it. And, you know, he tells Hunter he's not used to having a kid around. And none of them are, you know. They're just some fucking clones. They never expected to have to take care of a kid. But The power flickers, and we learn that since their encounter on Seleucami, the ship isn't in great shape. But Tech notes that the diagnostics have indicated that no critical systems were hurt, and right on cue, they fall out of hyperspace, which Hunter smartassly says, "Yeah, looks like no critical systems, huh? Jesus, come on, Tech." And Tech says it's not affecting life support, so it can't be that bad. But
I love that Hunter gives the smartass response, and Tech goes, I mean, we're still alive though, so how bad can it really be?
That critical. But yeah, I loved that too. But he says it's not affecting life support, but the power capacitor was blown, and they prepare Omega for the crash. Wrecker sits next to her, and the ship crashes through the fog of the planet, and Wrecker is just in a panic. We're gonna die. And then he looks down at Omega. He's like, "We're gonna be fine."
Wrecker was like barely in this episode in terms of like actually on screen, but the moments he was, his dialogue was so fantastic this episode.
He takes over the screen, man. Wrecker really dominates.
He's like a puppy dog, like just a reckless puppy dog. You know what I'm saying in that regard? Where it's like
Saint Bernard,
just goofy as shit, just fucking reckless. I mean, obviously that makes sense, but it's just funny to me. He's
just got a heart of gold too.
Oh yeah,
I love Wrecker, but as they crash down, Tech makes a relatively safe landing, and Omega opens her eyes and is like, "Is it over?" And, the crew discusses this storm overhead, how it's rendering their comms closer and closer to useless, and Tech notes that their capacitors were damaged in the firefight with the regs, but inventory says they should have a replacement on board. And Omega, trying to be as helpful as she can, grabs a random container and is like, "Is this it? Is this what you need? Is this the thing?" And they're all like, "Fuck, man, why'd you have to do that?" She's like, "What?" And this is Crosshair stuff. The wound's still there, clearly, very clearly. They haven't really taken the time to even think about it. Episode 2 was all gas. They never really took a second to pause and talk about Crosshair. And Wrecker confesses that he kind of misses him, and they're like, "Dude, he fucking shot you." And he's like, "Yeah, that hurt." And he says it like he kind of like loved it. Like he was like,
it reminded me of Drax when he got drugged behind the Milano in Guardians 2, and he's just getting pelted by trees and drugged through trees and through a plane crash. And at the end, he was like, "That was awesome." Just thirst for pain,
like
man.
Every time I watch Wrecker, he reminds me, there's like this class of characters that Wrecker belongs in. Drax is in there. And the other one that reminds me, Miles will get this, Tormund Giantsbane from Game of Thrones. You remember Tormund? Red bearded fella, giant.
Yeah.
Wanted to hit on the big woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yes, yeah, he does belong in that group of characters.
Yeah, it's just they all fit together for some reason, and it's they're big as shit and they're goofy and they mean well. They mean well. But they go on to discuss the potential causes for Crosshair's actions, and Tech says it's probably a fair assumption that the inhibitor chip is what's controlling Crosshair's behavior. And they're like, "Wait, what the fuck? It can do that?" And Omega's like, "Yeah, that's like literally what they're for. That's why they are there." And Wrecker is still confused. He's like, "So it wasn't Crosshair's fault?" Like he's just trying to get someone to tell him how he should feel about Crosshair at this point.
He's essentially the so explain this to me like I'm 5. That's Wrecker. Right
Tell
now.
me whether I need to hate or forgive him.
You guys just tell me now. Tell me what to think. But Hunter, he's not the talker when it comes to his feelings, and he cuts the convo short, and he says that they need to find the capacitor and get off this rock. And we just continue to see these parallels to me between Hunter and Din Djarin. They just couldn't more plainly be very, very similar characters to me. They're reprising this very similar role that I think, I'm in love with, and I love both these characters. But I am interested to see how ultimately they can make this storyline different than that of Grogu and Din. Like, what happens with Omega? Like, it's all very up in the air right now, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But back on Kamino, Crosshair continues to get examined, and he has a not so friendly interaction with a droid. And then we see the newly promoted Grand Moff Tarkin speaking with Nala Se. So between episode 1, when we last saw him, when he was just a little old fucking lieutenant or something like that, Lieutenant Tarkin or something like that. Now he is Governor and Grand Moff Tarkin. He's received he's seen benefits in this short span. But she says that Crosshair is responding favorably to the procedure. And I'm assuming this is just them like slowly more and more turning up his inhibitor chip. Like, is that like they're just seeing how far they can take this shit?
I mean, that would make sense, would it not?
Yeah.
They're just
Dude,
like,
he just got the John Walker treatment is what just happened. That's what just happened. It's all connected. It's all connected.
He's just like, so you guys are just going to keep making me more and more like, yep, we can murder anybody as long as it's in the name of the Empire. And that's what they're doing. But from the dark, another Imperial officer appears. It's Rampart, and he's asking about the enhanced clone. And they inform him that this clone is top of his class. And then Tarkin asks the status of Project Warmantle, which we heard of in Rogue One, like Miles stated earlier. And the officer tells Tarkin that the top recruits are here to begin their training under their new commander. And they all look to Crosshair, and it's like, oh shit, this is kind of dope. It's a good idea. I want to jump to something that we're gonna get to later in the episode, but the plan that Nala Se and the Prime Minister have to develop more enhanced clones, and they were saying how they were going to need the Bad Batch to do it, but all they need is one enhanced clone. They have Crosshair. Should it be that difficult? They seem to be really stressing about it.
Yeah.
I mean, Crosshair, though, maybe because Crosshair, those ones weren't made. Those ones weren't. Their intention wasn't to create, superior physically and just combat clones. But they turned out that way. So what if like Omega is like an experiment? Like, I'm not saying like I'm just taking a theory. Like, what if she was an experiment while they were trying to create those genetically enhanced clones, and she was an experiment. And that's how she ended up becoming. She's like, I'm one of you guys, because she's always on like her right. She was always on Nala Se's like right hip, everywhere she goes, and she's like looked at her like a mother. Like, yeah, I feel like
I think that Omega was definitely going to be the basis for a bunch of future clones. Like that was the idea behind Omega, was like, we've created this enhanced clone, and we will create more enhanced clones because of this enhanced clone. But, ultimately she got off the rock and is with the Bad Batch. So we don't really know where that's headed.
Mm-hmm.
And if, so I'm interested to see if like we see Kamino set like a bounty on the Bad Batch that's like separate from the Empire. Or something that's like, bring these people in alive or something like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be fun. It'd be a fun, and that would be why we'd be getting Fennec Shand, which we know we will be getting Fennec Shand in this series. So I think it's clear that Fennec Shand will be after someone in the Bad Batch.
Ooh.
That's the impression I get. And
I'm all for some Fennec Shand. I am about it.
Oh, dude, I love Fennec Shand. I love Ming-Na Wen, and I'm so excited for her to be the right-hand man to Boba in the Book of Boba. That's going to be the shit.
Mean, that conversation we had about her just changed my opinions just wholeheartedly. Just she is elevated to a whole new rank in just my like Star Wars character like ranks. She is just,
I mean, she's been the shit in everything. She's been a part of Marvel as Agent Melinda May. She's been
I'm assuming we all know the conversation I'm talking about with Fennec Shand, right?
I do.
We're on the same page, right? I just want to make sure we all remember that. Just
had we had the Patreon. Had we had the Patreon at the time, that would have been a Patreon exclusive discussion, probably. But it's full access. The Mandalorian rewatch somewhere in there.
We gave y'all that one for free. You're welcome.
But nevertheless, the Imps make their way through the halls of Kamino, and this young officer, Ramparts, is spewing about how a new strong central government must have an increase in soldiers to maintain order throughout the galaxy. And I was like, wow, this guy is like really, really imperial. Like he's like not even shameful about it. He's just like, you know what? Let's impose martial law. That's exactly what we should do. That's the good move. That's the right move. Like without any inhibitor chip, this guy's like, fuck yeah, let's take this bitch over. But, Nala Se says they are fully capable of creating more clones, but the officer retorts that there are other ways to create loyal soldiers. And they arrive to a hangar where Tarkin is introduced to their first elite squad. And I had this thought. Their armor, the black with the green accent, looks an awful lot like the Death Troopers we see later on in Rogue One. Is there any chance that these elite squads eventually go on to become the Death Troopers?
I feel like that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. And
like Crosshair is the first Death Trooper. I
don't know if they become Death Troopers, but I know at least one of them becomes dead. So,
but also, then you're gonna probably get to this point that now let's say in them stress, our clones are trained from birth to be soldiers, to be whatnot. But I mean, I also think about, I'm like, okay, well, do the clones have a certain limit that they reach? Can they exceed upon their potential? Because also they were also talking about how, I think with Jango gone, the genetic material of the clones gets smaller and smaller. It's not because you're end up cloning a clone, or the genetic material, is decreasing. So then you have to at that point, what do you clone a clone? And then that's just not going to be as good as cloning based off of the regular one.
That's why I think their plan was to start cloning an enhanced clone.
Yeah, and that's why
I think they were grooming Omega, letting her grow fully, and then they were gonna clone that.
And I could see the success with Rampart's idea because as a normal human being, if you're not the clone, with training and whatnot, there's ways for you to get better. You can practice makes perfect. Practice makes almost perfect, But with a clone, is there a limit set? And so when they eventually go on, how about we have the clones train the licensed soldier or the enlisted soldier or whatever they call them. Conscripted.
Yeah.
God, where's my Webster dictionary? Conscripted soldiers. So because their potential, regular human beings' potential, because there's not a clone, you can get better, you can improve, you can practice, you can.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I get you for sure. Yeah. I think, and they do have that conversation later, and there's a very, very good point to what Rampart says about how getting people who enlist willingly would be massive for us. Like that would breed a loyalty unlike anything the clones can bring us because they want to fight for the Empire. And I think what they're going to find is that there's not a lot of people who want to fight willingly for the Empire. Mm. And therefore they're going to have to start, going to planets and kidnapping children and bringing them up through a system and ultimately doing the same thing they would have done for clones, but, more unethical.
Yeah. But when they watch the original saga of Star Wars, you definitely, you see you see that there's troopers going around and whatnot, stormtroopers and whatnot, but you also see regular people with different faces and different genders serving the Empire. So like you said, there will be people who want to serve for the Empire. You'll see definitely people stationed around, who are regular people. But based off what we've seen, I don't mean they don't take their helmets off, but there are some type of stormtroopers, which I assume would still be the clones in effect. With the whole Order 66, you're fighting the Republic now. I mean, Empire.
Yeah, I get you. But Rampart explains that these are the top soldiers from around the galaxy, and if they can get more squadrons like this trained by these enhanced clones, they would make a formidable army. And Tarkin says that it's not a bad idea, and Rampart goes on to say it can bring strength to the burgeoning new Empire. And Nala Se watches on, concerned. That is the line Kyler was talking about.
Say that shit.
I don't have the line. I have, he knows it can bring strength to a burgeoning Empire. But Back with the Bad Batch. They are replacing the capacitors. Echo hears something in the distance rustling, and he turns to find what he's heard. His flashlight pans, and his tech gets the capacitor fastened. Echo notices massive scratches on the ship's hull. And Tech's like, well, those certainly weren't there when we landed. And then we see this creature take the capacitor in his mouth, and it starts like glowing from top to bottom. And I was like, this is dope. This is a cool ass creature. And it scurries off with the new capacitor. And back inside, Wrecker grabs at his head, groaning in pain, saying he must have hit his head in the crash. And fuck, I'm concerned about Wrecker, guys.
Okay, this is where I want to talk. Sorry, you go say your piece, but I had thoughts on this too.
No, I mean, we're thinking the same thing.
We're all thinking the same thing.
Yeah, dude, it's gotta be that inhibitor chip, right? And
no, it has to be like that.
And that is some fucking...
No, and the fact that if it can be activated by them getting hit in the head, it puts all of them in danger. Like any of them, of their inhibitor chips.
Combat, you just not, dude. Imagine a clone knocking the shit out you, and all of a sudden you're fighting with that dude. What?
Well, maybe we're gonna see that little.
That is the worst That is probably the worst motherfucker on the team, other than Crosshair to switch sides, and this motherfucker may be doing it too. This is about to be some fucking Colin Veronica shit. Holy shit!
Well, that's the thing is that like obviously Wrecker redeems himself at the end of this episode in a way that's like, okay, maybe we're okay, but is there a chance that this is the last good deed?
Yeah, that makes me more scared that he
Maybe he just hurt his head. Maybe his neck just hurts.
No, they ain't catching.
Yeah, they wouldn't keep going back to
it.
But also
there were shots where Wrecker doesn't say a word, where the entire time he's just scratching at his head, and he doesn't, and then he like exits the screen, doesn't say a thing. Like,
but maybe they have that little device that what's the Tech? What's his name? Is it Tech? Okay. That Tech was working on instead of, fixing the ship originally. Maybe they have that thing come into play and they figure out that Wrecker's inhibitor chip has come on and they have to do something to turn it off. Because that was the whole point of what he was building, was seeing if our inhibitor chips are active or not.
Well, here's something. This leads to a new, different line of questioning, with the theory that like the inhibitor chips could go off. Is there any chance that this series culminates in like a character like Crosshair breaking free of that inhibitor chip's influence, and in the midst of a battle dies protecting his brethren, dies protecting the Bad Batch? I think that's a very, very real possibility considering Star Wars' track record with that sort of thing. It just seems likely the person who'd fall into the dark side would naturally make the sacrifice which saves the team. Now, that gets more complicated if other inhibitor chips go off. Then that means I think we have...
Oh, yes.
But think about it, because does Omega have one? She doesn't, right? Or wouldn't likely have one?
I gotta think Omega probably has an inhibitor chip.
I gotta think she doesn't have one.
I was thinking she doesn't, and if she doesn't, they all do, and some bad things would happen. Oh no! Let's just dismiss that nightmare thought.
Based off of what you were gonna get there later, because there's some stuff that Crosshair does in some scenes. We're gonna get there later, but I'm calling for the Crosshair redemption arc. I'm calling for it.
Okay, at least
we got that shot. We got that shot.
At least there's actual potential of a redemption arc, dude. People were talking about a John Walker redemption arc, and the director acted like it was a guaranteed thing. I was like, "We do not fuck with dude."
After the series came out, the director was like, and I think in the finale, everybody does like John Walker.
Yeah, no,
like,
I literally, I know, dude. No, we don't fuck with dude.
We love John Walker.
No, I thought John Walker redeemed himself. He saved the bus. He saved the bus.
But more importantly, Tillman, I didn't know why you're down for a John Walker redemption arc and a Crosshair redemption arc, but you thought a fucking Zemo redemption arc was the end of the goddamn world.
I didn't. Hold up. Are you saying that I thought that Zemo wouldn't redeem himself?
Yes.
No, I thought he redeemed himself. I just thought he killed Bucky and tried to kill Bucky in the end. That's all.
I see.
But that's not very redemption of.
Hey, I mean, you can.
That's not proper grammar, but I couldn't think of the words.
That's not very redemption-y of him.
You can redeem yourself and then fuck up again. It's all cool.
Oh no.
No, it's a character, Tillman. Once they redeem themselves, they're good forever.
No.
But, nevertheless, Echo tells Hunter that something has damaged the exterior hull, and then the power goes out. And they hear stomping on the top of the ship, and then in front of Omega, the creature shows its face. And it scares the shit out of her, and Tech informs them that this creature is probably an Ordo moon dragon, which feeds on energy and was probably attracted to the capacitor for this reason.
Tell me why. As soon as I saw this thing and I knew Omega was going out there, I just knew exactly what was going to happen. That was probably the only thing I didn't like, was that just, you saw that coming from a mile away. But I understand that, like,
it's
everything
another little...
can't be changed, curveballs and everything. So I guess I understand. But I was just man, that was just the writing on the wall.
Another thing that I like about this is I think it further parallels Omega and Rey.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
They've gone back on that a couple of times. Like, this was very reminiscent of that scene in The Rise of Skywalker, where instead of ever opting to hurt the giant animal, she, instead throws the flashlight away and is like, oh shit, you're just hungry. You don't even want to fuck with me. You just want this fucking flashlight. Here, take it. And, she makes her way off. That's later on though. But, Hunter tells Wrecker to stay on the ship as he keeps grabbing at his head. And like, he's grabbing at his head the whole episode, guys. Like, he's got to have a pretty bad fucking headache.
He's fine.
Oh no.
But he tells Omega to stay too, and she argues, hey, I'm part of the squad too. And this argument sways him. And he tells her to stay close. And Wrecker continues to groan in pain as they make their way outside. But we cut to the elite squad discussing the Empire. And one notes that he has food in his stomach and a roof over his head, and that's more than the Republic ever did for him. And I thought this was interesting. So where do you think they like recruited these top soldiers from around the galaxy? Like, is there a chance this is like an Outer Rim sort of thing where the Republic wasn't very strong?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering
or it could be somebody who was caught in the middle of the war, because we saw earlier Clone Wars episodes, many worlds where they talked about the effects of the war and how we don't like the war, and it's just you see two sides fighting and not caring about who's in between. The Republic promised to do this and do that, and our world has been destroyed. And it could have been like the Empire coming to that world and being like, here's a roof, here's some food, get a job, good luck, child.
Well, it actually reminds me. Reminds me of the Heir to the Empire. There's this those books from the 90s written by Timothy Zahn about Thrawn's like reign. There's a storyline in which the Empire has been gaslighting an entire planet into thinking it's not destroying its planet, but they keep draining it of its resources, and that's kind of like the Republic was the good guys, but nevertheless they did abuse resources and abuse civilians, like there was a lot of stuff that got caught in the crossfire. That happened a lot. And like Saw Gerrera's sister, that's a good example to tie into this series too. Saw Gerrera's sister was a casualty of a battle between the Empire or not the Empire and the Republic, the Separatists and the Republic, and it was arguably the Republic's fault. Like that's just been prevalent throughout the series. So it would make sense that there's this openness, but from some, to the Empire, and a welcome change. Like, as we saw, fucking Palpatine at the Senate, he got a massive applause when he said that it would be the formation of the first galactic empire.
Well, and I mean, you guys were talking about like different places that it could be. It could even be fucking Coruscant, because lots of people weren't living great on Coruscant. They were living in the lower levels that were pretty dog shit if they weren't one of the people on the higher levels. So that's the whole issue with, there's a reason why, the fall of the Republic didn't happen during the High Republic era. So High Republic era was probably good for a lot of people. At that point in the Republic, it was pretty dog shit for most people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And obviously that's Palpatine influencing it so that people were open for this change into the Empire from the Republic. But, we then see Tarkin and the Prime Minister and Rampart standing over a hologram of that squad that's discussing. And the Prime Minister argues that conscripted recruits will never reach the same proficiency as clones. And Rampart argues that loyalty of those who willingly enlist is where the value truly comes, because skills can be taught, but loyalty can't, you know.
Colton?
But I kind of think the clones are an example of loyalty being, it's not even taught, it's ingrained.
It's ingrained,
yeah.
like they're programmed.
I don't understand that. That's not like, I wouldn't have keyed on that specific point. That's just kind of weak in my opinion, but hey.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing, is they can get
It's
the
just
loyalty from other places for a lot cheaper than what they can
Oh,
get
okay.
from clones
So
for.
this is like Nike sending their operations, and this is offshoring. This is just
Yes.
Yeah, it's
That's
all
exactly
all
what it
about money. That's like
Yeah,
all
because-
the Empire's trying to hoard resources. That's what they're doing.
All right, respect.
Well, and
Shout
also
out.
the Empire, it doesn't need the clone, you know, the high efficiency, super elite troops anymore. They just need a lot of good enough troops that are better
They need
than
a lot of cops.
what?
they need a lot of cops.
I mean, yeah, they need a lot of troops that are just good enough to where they can project power over the rest of the galaxy, but not so good that they're, you know, these super elite troops that are super expensive, because they're, you know, you don't need super elite, you know, clone or like even like Death Trooper level troops to go sit on a garrison on fucking Tatooine.
Exactly.
It's
We
just
can,
so wild
just
to me.
we can
You
train
just
them
need
for
some
6
asshole.
months.
Yeah,
We can
you
train
need
them
some
for 6
asshole that's
months,
trained with a
arm
gun for a
them,
couple months,
arm them
and
to the teeth with just a whole bunch of military equipment and make them patrol neighborhoods. That's all. That's all we have to do. You know? That's all we'd have to do.
Who
as
made
an
the
empire.
Who made the cheaper argument? Was that Miles or Kyler?
me.
And that's a
That
good
was number one.
that's a good argument, because if you think about it, the clones were bred for what reason?
For war.
War. War is over. So why should we pay you to keep creating war weapons, essentially?
Yeah, well, they
Or
needed.
war.
Well, that makes sense, especially in the war. Like, you needed those elite, like highly
Yeah.
trained troops, but now it's like you're just.
You need a
There's
security
nobody
guard.
fighting
Yeah,
against them.
You
you're
need a
just
security guard.
you're just.
As I said, some asshole who you gave a gun to, train him for a month, ship him out to Tatooine, call it good.
Exactly. You don't
Obviously
need,
not Tatooine. That's just the biggest planet that I can think of off the top of my
Yeah,
head. But
Colton, you said planet.
whatever other fucking, run of the mill
What's up,
planet in the Star Wars galaxy.
I said, Colton, you said police officers? Yes, they needed police officers at first, basically. I mean, not the same idea, but it's thinking about, like, for a museum overnight, you don't need a police officer to sit there and just keep guard and make sure everything's in order. You just need a security guard. And right now, they're just needing security guards, basically.
True. But, Tarkin says that a test for these conscripted soldiers is in order. They must be seen in action, and he'll see if they can do what Clone Force 99 could not. So they'll send them to Onderon to take out Saw Gerrera and their insurgency of rebels.
Yep.
And again, we get another shot of a Kaminoan exiting the room, kind of like sweating it, like, fuck, this isn't looking good for us.
God damn it!
As I said, Kaminoan's thinking up of what contingency they need to use to not get fucked on by the Empire.
Hold on, quick
Exactly.
question.
And what's up?
Why is Iden Versio in that group?
It looked a lot like
It
Iden
did.
Versio.
Iden
You know what?
Versio in that group?
I'm happy I'm not the only one who recognized that, because I saw that and I was like, what the fuck?
You play
No,
Battlefront 2, all of you out there. Why is Iden Versio in that group? I just need to know.
She looked a lot, like, my first thought when I saw her, I was like, that's Iden Versio. But, like,
Timeline wise, it could be.
I feel like if that's the case, she looks young for a long time.
Hey,
I mean,
maybe
think about it.
aims
She had like a
5
daughter
months.
in Battlefront 2, and she was kind of a MILF.
Sheesh! If Dave
you guys
Filoni
seen
pulls
the movie,
off having Iden Versio, Dave Filoni.
Have you guys seen the movie Blind Spotting with Daveed Diggs and Raphael Casal? Shit's phenomenal, and the chick who plays Iden Versio in Battlefront is in it. That's the only connection.
Oh, okay.
But I strongly recommend Blind Spotting, a top 5 favorite movie of mine all time. But back with the Bad Batch, we see Hunter and Omega making their way through the dark, stormy landscape, and Hunter kneels to the ground, analyzing it, and Omega asks, what he's doing, and he tells her he's tracking. And she picks up the dirt like he did, and she does the same thing, and she just kind of looks at it like, what the fuck?
What the fuck did this asshole just do?
How is he even? What is he getting out of this?
Also, can I just say real quick? I can't remember I said it earlier, but it really took very little convincing on her part to get him to let her go out onto a fucking unknown planet or moon or whatever the fuck they're on, into the dark of night, chasing after some fucking beast that feeds on energy.
It's interesting. It's an interesting choice.
Yeah, she was like, he was like, no, I don't think it's safe for you. And she goes, but I'm part of the squad. He goes, Mom, you got me there. All right, let's go.
Got me there, honey.
Dang it, guys.
Got me there, daughter.
It's not Iden Versio. The timeline.
No, it is. It is.
The timeline doesn't match up. It's not.
It is. No, it is.
The timeline just doesn't match up.
It is. It is. It is her. I'm looking at an article right now confirming.
The timeline just doesn't match up.
At least I think.
She's a part of the Empire when it falls.
That's
right?
Yeah. That's what it's saying.
She's like, isn't she like on Endor?
You have to think about it from the. It's only
she knew Leia as an adult.
It's only 18 years between this and the fall of the Empire.
True.
Leia as an adult in the story. So.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. This doesn't confirm it. I'm sorry. This is just saying that Rampart is presenting people to be precursors to the Death Troopers from Rogue One or the Imperial Special Forces unit led by Iden Versio. Okay,
it's Iden Versio's mother.
Sorry.
Yes.
But
all right, go ahead.
She asks Hunter, as they keep moving, could I learn to track like you? And he's like, well, it is an enhanced skill. I was programmed to have this, like Wrecker and Tech. We each have one. And Omega adds, and Crosshair. And, he doesn't respond. He does the stereotypical brooding, I'm not going to answer that thing. And she says, you shouldn't be mad at him. He can't help it. And Hunter says that more than anything, he's angry at himself. They don't leave their own behind. And I was like, I appreciate this about Hunter. Like, Hunter is like, all around very sound dude. Like, I don't have like any complaints about Hunter, frankly. How do you like? It's interesting. Like Wrecker's a little bit of a dumbass. Tech can't read a lot of social cues. Crosshair is now evil. Echo also a swell guy, frankly, but he is very, very soldiery. To me.
Yeah.
Hunter just seems like a guy.
What he is,
because he wasn't
exactly. But Hunter just seems like a fucking guy.
Hunter seems the most normal.
See movement. He can see heat with his eyes.
Yeah. Hunter seems like the most normal dude out of them all.
Yeah,
like the most normal in that, like, if I sat down and talked to him, I'd be like, who the fuck is this asshole?
Yeah, exactly.
Because, as you said, like, all of them have like things that are like weird about them, except for Hunter.
Yeah, and Omega says, then they'll get him back. They'll get Crosshair back. That's her mission at this point for me. More than anything, she's going to try and get Crosshair back if she has the opportunity. As we saw in the first episode, she was like, I know what you're about to do. Don't do it. I feel like she's gonna try and talk him back again at some point. But we're then with the elite squad bound for Onderon. And one of the squad has an ego on him, and he'll pay for it. He says he doesn't know the significance of the clones if they're bringing the conscripted soldiers in, and he tells him that he should enjoy his command for now. Dude doesn't know who he's fucking with, frankly. Get your shit together and shut your mouth, bitch boy. But on the planet, the rebels are ready to leave Onderon, knowing they've been made, their base has. And they see a sensor has been triggered, and they stand at the ready for a fight. And then out of nowhere, they begin to get picked off one by one. And fuck the fucking spacing, the setting. It's just perfect. It's like it's beautiful. It's beautifully done for like a battle scene. You know what I'm saying? And the elite squad lays down a smoke grenade, and the elite squad starts raining hell. They're just destroying these guys. And Hunter and Omega get eyes on the capacitor back with the Bad Batch, and Hunter approaches it and When he reaches to grab it, he sees the Ordo Moon Dragon doing that put his hands on the rock and let his claws come down one by one, and it was all freaky like. And it really fucks up Hunter. It attacks him, rips off his mask, and the dragon makes off with the fucking capacitor. And Omega gets the
Sorry, go ahead.
You're cool. Omega gets the mask and she puts it back on Hunter, but he's been out for a second, so it's going to take a minute before he's back up and conscious. So she goes ahead and grabs Hunter's blaster and goes after the dragon. She's like, "Fuck it, I can do this." And she just climbs right into the thing's little hole. Just whoop. See you guys later. And she begins her hunt. She's doing the tracking thing, just like her pops. But back on Onderon, the rebels continue to be picked off, just one by one. They're going down, and when the rebel ship is ready for takeoff, they're like, "Finally, we're getting out of here. Thank God." And Crosshair's like, "Nah." Snipes the pilot. Just done for there. And the ship crashes down, and they open the hole, and Crosshair asks, "Where's Guerrera?" And the rebel goes, "I don't know, but I wouldn't tell you if I did." And he immediately shoots her, and he says, "I believe you." And I was like, God damn, this guy is cold. I believe you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
I
shit
don't
was
know.
wild.
Okay. This episode really did it for me. I knew where Crosshair's voice resonated with me from. Anybody in here ever play Call of Duty growing up?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makarov, MW2/MW3. You
Yep,
know
so
the mission from MW2, No Russian?
Did not get to play in W2, but go ahead.
This is exactly how Crosshair sounds, and the way he acts makes total sense.
You're right.
Makes total sense.
I get what you're saying. I would agree with you.
It almost sounds exactly the same, like the same guy. It almost sounds that way. It's crazy to me.
Have you looked it up? Is it the same guy? I mean, this guy.
Well, surely not. Okay.
Bradley D. Baker's a prominent voice actor, dude. He does a lot of work.
If this is him, I'm gonna lose my shit. No, it's not. Okay, it's not. That would have.
I wanted to check it out because if it was, that'd have been a great moment for you.
No, that would have freaked me the fuck out, actually. But that would have been sick. Yeah. And no, it's some dude named Roman Varshavsky, which sounds like someone who should be voicing Makarov. So it makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. But after he shoots down this one and says, "I believe you," Crosshair asks the rest, "Do you have any information you'd like to share?" And the passengers respond, scared. "We don't know anything. We were just promised transport off the world. That's all." And these are clearly civilians. There are no longer fighters here. And Crosshair says, "Then you're of no use to the Empire." And he puts a gun to his head. And you're like, fuck! Like, goddamn, he's just going to kill everybody. And one of the elite squad stands up to him. He says, "What are you doing? Guerrera's fighters are dead. These are civilians. We should bring them in." And Crosshair retorts, "Those aren't our orders." And the guy says, "Forget our orders. This is wrong." And Crosshair asks one more time, just to make sure, before he's like, "Okay, before I take the action I'm about to take,
Before
you're
I
not
execute
going
you.
to comply." You're not going to comply.
Yeah, say it like him. Say it like the dog he is. Because Crosshair is the best character in this show.
He says, "No, none of us are." He turns to the squad and he says to ignore the clone. "We signed up to be soldiers, not an execution squad." And Crosshair asks if he knows why they chose him to be in charge. It's because he's willing to do what must be done.
Now say it like him, Colton. Now say it like him.
I don't have a great Crosshair yet.
You don't know why they put me in charge. Because I'm willing to know why
they put me in charge. I can't do it yet. It's
As
just
I said earlier,
too raspy, and I can't replicate it yet.
that man
I'll
is
figure it
bad
out,
news. He is a menace to society.
He is a menace, but he's a dog. That man is dog.
No, like he has become one of the most compelling characters, if not the most compelling character in the series. Because we do see at the end of this episode that he seems conflicted.
But
he doesn't seem like he is 100% what he's into.
Omega.
Obviously, I love Omega, and Omega's my number one right now. But
Crosshair is fun to watch. Like he is fun. Just when he's on the screen, just his presence and that like intenseness about him is super fun to watch. Especially when the contrast of like Omega being her little, happy and like she's just her character's so light. You know what I mean? Like just in terms of like her.
Well, I'm so glad they made him the one who went. That's inhibitor chip went bad, because here's my thing. I didn't think he fitted in anyway. Like, I thought he was too intense originally. Like in the Bad Batch arc of Clone Wars, he seemed too intense for the rest of the Bad Batch. I was just like, so I'm glad they've gone this direction. I hope to see your redemption, obviously.
Oh, we're seeing the redemption. Oh, we're seeing it.
I think we'll see a Star Wars style redemption.
And you'll get to that scene. Yeah, you'll get to that scene, but I'm seeing the redemption.
Yeah, we are. But
Miles, shut up, Miles.
Crosshair reaches for his blaster and shoots the squad member in the chest. He collapses in front of his comrades and he says, "Good soldiers follow orders." He tells the others to finish the mission, and as he watches on, the others kill the remaining civilians. One of them has a fucking flamethrower too.
Yeah, that's mortifying to think. No, this reminded me of, and I guess when you think about this makes a lot of sense, I guess, if they're kind of the ones that are laying the groundwork for what they want to become. They succeeded. But the scene in The Force Awakens, the very, very beginning, when they all land and just come out and just fan out and just murk everyone in the whole village. That kind of like, it makes sense that this is what leads to that. Like it makes sense that they're trying to build to that, and this is where they started. That makes sense.
Absolutely, I'm with you. And even this even started with the Separatists. This is what Palpatine had Dooku had the Separatists do, is just go to places by the end of the Clone Wars and ransack the place so that people hate the Republic and are okay with the security an Empire will bring them.
Yeah, this is where This is where Rampart and Kaminoans, they were talking about, and we were talking about, with the clones, loyalty is, installed. And then also with them, like this is also the flaw you're seeing. This is the flaw you're seeing with the, with getting conscripted soldiers is you had the one conscripted soldier who did just what the Bad Batch did and was like, okay, these are civilians. These aren't soldiers. These are civilians.
Here's where I think the benefit of conscripted soldiers comes in, is the fear aspect. Them watching a comrade get shot by a commander and then order them to do the same, it will scare regular people more than it'll scare clones, because those clones value brotherhood and not leaving anyone behind. They are programmed to have that inkling,
And so normal people are going to, or their first in their mind is their own life. And so if they have a commander threaten their life with follow orders or die, they're going to follow orders.
But see, you also don't threaten the clones, though, because they'll just follow orders no matter what.
Well, but also, I was kind of thinking about it some more because we were talking about it earlier. I think part of the issue that the Empire is going to have with the clones as well is they can be reprogrammed. They can have contingencies programmed into those chips. So who's to say that the Kaminoans haven't programmed some contingency of, they turn their back on us, so let's go ahead and flip all these clones over to now hate the Empire, just like they were programmed to hate the Jedi and to turn on the Jedi. So conscripted soldiers aren't going to have that switch in their heads that you can just flip and have them switch who the enemy is that you could with the clones. So that's always going to be a downside of the clones, is they can be reprogrammed and flip on the Empire.
True. It is also human nature to want to be on the winning side. So like these conscripted soldiers, it's like, well, fuck, if I'm not fighting for the Empire, there's a chance they're going to hunt me down and kill me anyway. Like there's just that option. They could come to my planet and ransack it for resources. You just never know. So I might as well be a part of their team. But back with the Bad Batch and back in the hole, Omega tracks the dragon. She finds the capacitor, but hears snarling behind her, and it roars in her face, and she sits back terrified, pointing her blaster at it. And Hunter wakes up outside. He's in a fucking panic. He's like, Omega! And he tracks her and realizes where she's gone. She's gone straight into that Ordo Moondragon hole. And Omega hears him call her name from above, and she sees the dragon move its head wherever she moves the flashlight. And she realizes, oh shit, Homeboy's just hungry. He just wants some food. It's probably pretty hard to find some energy on a planet with not a lot of people.
Yeah, that seems like a very tough arrangement. Like, this has got to be finite, right? I mean, he's gonna run out.
Yeah, like the reason this boy is hunting is because, like, boy, I haven't eaten in weeks.
Damn, imagine an animal being like, "Yo, I need you to litter so I can stay alive." Like, imagine that being the contingency. Okay.
But also, they could also like draw energy through like from like the sun or some shit like that. Because if this thing was on a planet with people living on it and like technology and power and all that shit on it, those animals aren't living there for long. They're gonna get hunted down. Because I don't think people are gonna take very kindly to this thing just coming swiping their fucking power coils and dipping.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But she throws her flashlight away so that the dragon will go chase it, and she runs off with the capacitor, and she makes it back to the surface where Hunter dusts her off and asks what she was thinking going down there, and she retorts, the mission was to retrieve the capacitor, wasn't it? I tracked the dragon like you did. And he's like, well, goddamn, yeah, you did, and you're just fine. And he realizes she has his blaster. He's like, yo, are you fucking for real? You just took my gun off my unconscious body? And she's like, don't worry, I didn't have to use it. And I think there's this moment where Hunter is very impressed.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, imagine looking at a little kid and like, you don't know how this animal has been, like how she has came out of this animal who's been fucking your shit up. Like, you don't know how this animal could possibly be defeated. And all of a sudden a little girl comes out of the hole with just the thing you needed and the animal, it's down there. What is your first thought going to be when she's like, I didn't use that? I'd be like, we need to fucking kill this little girl. Like, she is a problem.
She is magic.
She's out here. She's out here handling a fucking behemoth just on her own.
Burn her at the stake.
Bare hands, no blaster. She said, "Fuck the blaster, dude. I'm running. I am." Yeah, running.
You know what? Maybe I was wrong earlier. I said Crosshair's a menace. Fucking Omega's a menace.
Omega looked that Ordo Moondragon in the face and said, "Fuck out of here," and it ran.
Said, "What the fuck you gonna do about it, bitch?
You ain't about that action.
But back on Camino, the elite squad arrives back before Tarkin, and Crosshair informs him that Guerrero was already gone, but the rest of the camp was dealt with. And Crosshair nods his team to come with him, and I thought, like, damn, he's got his thumb on these guys. Like, they're not gonna disregard his order. And Tarkin and the newly minted Admiral Rampart discuss how it's impressive that these soldiers followed through where the brothers of their clones did not. And Tarkin grants the Admiral full control of the project and says that the clones, for a small time, shall continue to serve a purpose, but they will move to this new method of armed forces. Noting that cloning is a relic of the past. So he's like, we're officially moving forward with War Mantle. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Like, you got this, Rampart.
And he said, basically, wow, looks like you guys are down one member. Anyway, just forget the dude. Hey, why are you guys down one person? Where'd he go? Oh, well, whatever. What's for lunch?
No questions asked. And Rampart didn't give a shit either. He was like, they know the risks. Like they knew that guy was dead. They were like, the only reason he didn't come back is because he's dead, and we don't give a shit that he died. So
yeah, I was kind of hoping that that Tarkin would say something, being like, "Where's the last dude?" And Crosshair would have given him just the "good soldiers follow orders," and then just walked away. More than just I wanted something more than them just like walking off the ship and they're just being like, I see your squad is missing a member. Makes sense.
No, I didn't like that guy anyway. Tarkin being like, I didn't like that guy anyway.
He's like, yeah, fuck that guy. He sucked anyway. But,
yeah.
The Prime Minister and Nala Se discuss how if Rampart has his way, conscripted soldiers will make clones obsolete. And the Prime Minister says he fears for the future of their operation, that their clones must remain essential. And Nalase notes that the original genetic material harvested from Jango Fett continues to degrade. And the Prime Minister says it's time to move to the next phase. If her experiment can yield a superior clone, it will secure the relationship with the Empire. It's like, oh, her experiment. And I believe this experiment was Omega. And she says that such a contingency cannot be counted on without a direct source. The clones required will not return willingly. She moves to the window where they now overlook the table where Clone Force 99 sat at mealtime, as we saw in episode 1. So their plan was to clone enhanced clones and then enhance those clones and then probably clone those clones and then enhance those clones and so on and so forth. And I think that's interesting. The Prime Minister says that they are Kaminoan property and that they only need one. Their survival hinges on it. So, I mean, you do have Crosshair right there, but maybe they don't want to fuck with Crosshair because Crosshair is so dedicated to the Empire. Maybe that's their problem.
Oh, that makes sense.
They can't discreetly.
Yeah, but you know that they know that none of the other ones are gonna fuck with them either. Like,
true.
Well,
true.
I mean,
It's like
you also may not know because Nalase did help them escape, kept the bay door open. So I mean, you could never know. But there could be a secret meeting that they meet up with her later on in the show or in whatever next season or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, Nalase could not even be on the Kaminoan sides at this point. Like, was she protecting the experiment or was she truly protecting Omega in a caretaker way? Like, I need her to get away from here safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I guess we'll learn more and more about that as it becomes apparent. But Crosshair and his squad arrive back to their barracks, which they've inherited Clone Force 99's barracks, and he looks at the tallies on the wall from where Wrecker left them before. And he sits on his bed and he does the classic pose that we've seen in Star Wars Rebels and from one Callus, where he just sits in his Imperial barrack and looks down at his feet like, why am I here?
Yes.
Why do I do the things I do?
Yes.
So it's abundantly clear to me that Crosshair is not fully on board with the actions he's taking, but he just cannot stop what he's doing.
Yep.
Like, that's what the inhibitor chip is doing.
Mm-hmm. Cue the redemption arc scene. This is the cue. This is the cue, ladies and gentlemen. He looks at the tallies. He walks in, head down. Yes, he looks at the tallies, walks in, head down. There's going to be a moment, like you said, Star Wars-esque, where he's going to have to make a decision. He's going to have to make a decision, and you're going to see that look both ways. Crosshair, please get electrocuted by the Lord Palpatine. You know, no, I'm joking. It's not gonna be like that. But
No, he's gonna get a lightsaber through the back.
Facts.
Where Crosshair is gonna like be aiming down someone from the Clone Force, and he's gonna have a shot, and it's gonna be like he'll miss on purpose, right? And he'll be like, I missed. And then Darth Vader will stick his sword through his back and he'll be like, I don't. And that'll be it.
And then 6-year-old Luke will pop out and be like, wah! Yes. But I honestly think, yes, I was like, yes, seeing this scene with him, you know, you can see that he's thinking, you know, and Crosshair's not just a mindless, when he has his helmet on, yes, he sounds like a mindless drone. Good soldiers follow orders. But being able to see his facial expressions with his helmet off and seeing his reactions and stuff, yes, they keep turning up the inhibitor chip. Yeah. They keep turning up the inhibitor chip. But he still is, you know, part of him was still there, you know, where the regs, they all just switched over 100%. But part of him still sits to be there and linger. That's why at first when the chip even was activated, you know, yes, he was like, you let the Jedi get away, but you know, it was kind of like he still had his personality and he still was, you know, talking to them.
Still Crosshair.
Yeah, still Crosshair, working with them, fighting with them, going through training with them, teaming with them. So no matter how, I feel like, yes, they keep trying to turn this up or maybe just test it, but still part of him still resides in there. Otherwise he would have just ignored the tallies walking by, or he wouldn't sit there contemplating with his head down. So
100%. But, you know, back with the Bad Batch, we have liftoff, and they are finally able to get up and running again. And Wrecker says it took long enough. And he tells Omega to come with him. He tells her to cover her eyes, and Hunter kind of gives a little smile and follows. And Wrecker leads her to her new bedroom, a cute little loft with a window into the galaxy and hanging lights. And she looks around smitten, and Wrecker asks, "So what do you think? I thought this place could feel more like a home." She says it's perfect, and she thanks him, and he says it was nothing, and he watches her as she takes Lula into the comfort of a home he's created for her. And I was like, "Aw, Wrecker really cares about Lula." I know you guys have seen Friends. This is Joey's penguin to Wrecker, you know, or at least Kyler's seen it. At least Kyler's seen it.
Talk about
it's Joey's little penguin. You know, that's Lula to Wrecker.
Yeah, talk about she's never had a room before. Degenerate. Anyway.
But he passed it on. He passed it on. And I appreciated that. You know, he was willing to let go of it for Omega because, you know, she needs a pal. And she says, "I've never had my own room before." And Hunter tells her that she's a part of the squad now too. They all look at her in her little cubby, and she looks out at the galaxy. And we fade to black.
I almost barfed, dog.
Eat my ass, Tillman.
Get this lovely family. Oh, I have a room now. Bitch, you got a chair. Bed. You got a chair. Shut up. No.
Hey, Tony Stark had a chair too, and look where that got him. Eventually dead again, but it helped him save the world. So.
Kyler calling for the death of Omega? You heard it here first.
Kyler calls for the death. Paul, I like how he insinuates that you're like,
I'm like begging for it. Like, please.
I mean, we heard those words out of your mouth, Kyler. We know you want her dead.
On screen.
I don't know, guys. If they kill, I'm at the point where if they kill Omega, I'm willing to go Miles's threats to Disney headquarters from Mandalorian and WandaVision on the ass and burn that bitch down.
Those threats still stand, Disney.
Oh God, we're making threats to Disney now?
Oh yeah, that's right, Tillman. You weren't on there for those.
No.
Miles on multiple occasions threatened to burn Disney to the ground.
All I want to know is Disney. I have nothing to do with this. I have the Disney Plus app on my phone, my PlayStation, my TV at school. So please do not set off a bomb through the programming of the app. Thank you.
They can do that?
It's Disney. They can do anything. They own Gatorade.
I will bid you all adieu. Boys, it was another episode of the Bad Batch Bitches. This was the Penny Bloom podcast. 'Twas I, Colton Robertson. I was joined by Tillman McClooney. Thank you very much.
Hey, they call me Chocolate Chip. They call me Snickers Bar. They call me Tillman McClooney. I'm happy to be here. I'll miss you all. Hopefully I'll be able to have another chance to hop in here, but thank you for having me.
I'm certain you will, Till. You'll be back before you know it. And thank you for hopping in for Joe. I appreciate you coming out the gate with praise for Dave Filoni. You slid right into Joseph's role really well. He can't seem to stop oozing about how Dave Filoni needs his ass ate.
Yeah, but I was gonna say before we continue, Tillman, would you say that Dave Filoni deserves every single sex act imaginable performed on him?
I'm not an extremist like Joseph.
Okay, you just think he's a good dude.
Yes, I think he's a great guy. And the other guy, whoever he is, I love you too.
Well, thank you, Miles motherfucking Buttress.
Yeah, I mean, anytime, man. Anytime.
I mean, like, next week even? Perhaps? Even?
Maybe.
Who
knows?
Maybe?
Of course. Keep the diversity going.
And lastly, thank you, KBZ Kyler Barnett.
Absolutely. Always happy to be here.
Absolutely. Again, this was the Penny Bloom podcast. If you want an extended, unedited version of this podcast, we have an additional 20-minute intro, I think, on the Patreon, patreon.com/CoroBloom, CoroBloom. Follow on Twitter @PennyBloomPod, on Instagram @PennyBloomPodcast. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And always praise Keanu Reeves.